Dramatic video. We're just getting into here in the Situation Room from the Israeli military, showing a deadly airstrike taking out the head of Hamas's military wing commander in Gaza. The attack, which killed 9 people and wounded 35 others, was the first in a broader Israeli assault on targets in the region. Several other strikes have occurred as well. All this in reaction to hundreds of rockets coming into southern Israel from Gaza. Let's turn to our senior international correspondent, Sarah Seidner. She's in Jerusalem for the latest. Sarah, what are we seeing here? Is this the beginning of a new war?
It is what it is looking like right now, Wolf. A lot of concern on both sides, especially the civilians living in southern Israel and those living in Gaza. We are seeing a definite ratcheting up of tensions between Israel and Gaza. Let me give you the very latest that we're hearing right now. So far in Gaza, there have been at least 30 airstrikes. 84 people injured, several of those injured children. We know that 8 people have been killed, 2 of those young children. But we should talk about the leader of Hamas's military wing, because he wasn't just the leader of Hamas's military wing, but he was also a symbolic member of Hamas, one of the founders of Hamas. We are expecting a huge reaction from Hamas. They have basically said, and I'm quoting here, "We will open the gates of hell." Israel has opened the gates of hell. Our occupying forces have opened the gates of hell, and we are seeing the reaction now. There are more rockets coming into Israel. Since Saturday, more than 130 rockets have come into Israel. Some of those blasted away by the Iron Dome, but some of those have landed, injuring about a dozen Israelis. We also know that there are 4 soldiers who have been injured, 2 of them severely. That happened just a couple of days ago. This is a real tension that has ratcheted up. We also know that Egypt has removed its ambassador to Israel, and we're getting that information just as we speak. Also, there are a lot of rumors floating around, but right now we talked directly to the military spokeswoman who told us that Israel is considering whether or not it will perform a ground war in Gaza. Right now, they are holding off, but they are bringing reservists in just to be prepared in case they think that a ground war is necessary. For now, we're hearing that there are continued airstrikes, and there is some action from the Mediterranean just off of Gaza, where Israeli warships are shooting into Gaza. We are also hearing from the militants inside Gaza saying they have also targeted the Israeli Navy ships that are there anchored outside on the Mediterranean, outside of Gaza. So a lot of action going on, and certainly there is expected to be more action overnight. Wolf?
Situation unfolding right now. Sarah Seidner will stay in close touch with you. Let's dig a little bit deeper right now. Joining us is the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for coming in. So is there going to be not only an air war, if you will, airstrikes, strikes in from naval vessels in the Mediterranean, but is Israel going in on the ground into Gaza?
Good to be with you, Wolf, as always. Israel's action, called Pillar of Defense, follows, as you heard, days in which hundreds of rockets have been fired by Gaza, by terrorists at Gaza, at 1 million Israeli civilians in the southern part of the country. That would be like the equivalent of 40 million Americans who have to huddle in bomb shelters or be no more than 15 seconds run from some bomb shelter, because that's how much time you have to get to that bomb shelter when the shells start coming in on you. And now, over the course of, even since 2009, the last time we operated in Gaza, there have been over 2,500 rockets fired at our citizens in the south. Israel had exercised immense restraint, I would say superhuman restraint before this, but no Israeli government can permit a situation where 1 million of its citizens are in these bomb shelters and subjected to these shellings daily.
But so this targeted assassination or killing of the Hamas military commander, you knew that was going to generate a response.
Well, this military commander, Mr. Jabari, is responsible for the deaths of dozens of Israelis. He was the one who planned and carried out the kidnapping of Gilad Shalit, and 2 soldiers were killed in that operation as well. We've tried to arrange ceasefires through Egyptian mediation. The terrorists have broken all of those ceasefires. Hamas, Islamic Jihad, other terrorist organizations. Iran this is basically an outpost of Iran. All these organizations are directly or indirectly receiving aid from Iran. And so this was a situation which was completely unacceptable for Israel as it would be for any country in the world, and Israel will take all the measures necessary to defend its citizens.
How much coordination or warning did you give the U.S., the United States government, about what was going on?
We've been closely coordinating and communicating with the United States government. Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke with Vice President Biden today, as well as with President Obama about an hour ago. And Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed his deep appreciation for the president's unequivocal support for Israel's right to defend itself.
So there's no issue. The U.S. is not saying anything, stop this, don't do this. They're not worried. What's been the U.S. reaction?
The U.S. reaction is to express complete understanding of our situation and support for our right to defend our citizens from terrorist attacks.
How worried are you that this, what effectively is now emerging as a war in the south, could lead to a war in the north with Hezbollah based in Lebanon as well?
Well, first, we don't want any war in the south. Israel does not want a war.
But if you go in on the ground and go into Gaza to do whatever you want to do, that effectively is going to be a war.
Well, we're not there yet. We are preparing for any eventuality. That is true.
You're calling up reserve units?
I can't go into that detail, but I'll tell you we've made all the preparations we need to defend the citizens of the South. But we've sent a message, a very powerful message to the terrorists of Gaza, saying, stop it. You cannot shoot with impunity at our citizens. And if they internalize that message and they stop shooting, then there will be no further escalation.
We did get a statement from Lieutenant Colonel Avital Leibovich of the Israeli military saying there are some reserve units that are preparing, but nothing more than that at this point. That's the statement we got. Where do you see Iran playing in over this, if you see Iran's hand at all?
Well, we see in Iran is the direct supporter of organizations like Islamic Jihad, which fire rockets, which carry out terrorist attacks. Hamas also receives support from Iran. So these are Iranian proxies. All of Gaza is an Iranian outpost.
So you think Iran is instigating this right now, so for whatever reason?
Well, we have no hardcore evidence whether Iran is trying to divert attention from its support of the Assad regime and its massacre of the Syrian population, or try to divert attention from the Iranian nuclear program. But certainly Iran has no interest in peace between Israel and its neighbors. Iran states openly, its leaders state openly, that their goal is to destroy the state of Israel.
Now, you have a peace treaty signed in 1979 with Egypt, still in effect, but now we're hearing the Egyptians have recalled its ambassador from Israel. Is that true?
We have heard that that is true. Israel's peace with Egypt since 1979 has been the cornerstone of our regional security outlook. It is vital to Israel's security. It's vital to Egypt's security. I think it's vital to the security of the region. It's a paramount American interest as well. And we hope the Egyptians will play a constructive role in this current chapter in our struggle against terrorism in Gaza, as they have played a constructive role in the past.
But how worried are you that the entire Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty, as a result of this and other issues, could collapse?
Well, again, we hope the Egyptians will continue to play that constructive role. They recently appointed a new ambassador to Israel. And again, we have hopes for the continuation of that treaty.
We did get a statement from the State Department deputy spokesperson, and I'll read a little bit of it to you. We strongly condemn the barrage of rocket fire from Gaza into southern Israel. We regret the death and injury of innocent Israeli and Palestinian civilians caused by the ensuing violence. There's no justification for the violence that Hamas and other terrorist organizations are employing against the people of Israel. We call on all those responsible to stop these cowardly acts immediately. We support Israel's right to defend itself, and we encourage Israel to continue to take every effort to avoid civilian casualties. There have been civilian casualties.
Well, you're dealing with an enemy, whether it's Hamas, Islamic Jihad, any of these terrorist organizations. They perpetrate a double war crime. They shoot at our civilians to kill our civilians, and they use their own civilians as human shields. They want their own civilians to get killed. And we are trying our utmost to avoid inflicting civilian casualties, but they place their rockets in the middle of schools, in the middle of mosques, in the middle of playgrounds, even in houses. We have pictures of rockets in houses where the roof opens up and the rocket shoots up. They actually want civilian casualties. So we have to, I know of one particular airstrike today that was called off at the last minute because the pilot saw that there were children playing in the vicinity. So we're doing our best, but at the end of the day, this is an enemy that wants its own civilians killed.
One final question. The president was asked about Iran and its nuclear program at the news conference today, and the possibility of direct U.S.-Iranian talks, face-to-face meetings between the U.S. and Iran. Listen to what he said.
I will try to make a push in the coming months to see if we can open up a dialogue between Iran and not just us, but the international community to see if we can get this thing resolved. I can't promise that Iran will walk through the door that they need to walk through, but that would be very much the preferable option.
You have a problem with direct U.S.-Iranian talks on its nuclear program?
Well, in the past, we've said that we've seen that the Iranians have used talks as a means not actually of reaching an agreement, but of spinning out time so they can keep their centrifuges spinning. But we're in, again, close consultation with the Obama administration about ways of preventing Iran from acquiring military nuclear capabilities, and that conversation is very intimate, very close, and continuous.
So does that mean you don't have a problem or you do have a problem?
I want to say that we're talking about it very closely.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thanks very much for coming in. An FBI probe explodes into a scandal that takes down the CIA director. We're learning new details of how that investigation unfolded and the privacy